everyone. Welcome to Online Seller UK podcast. My name is Prabhat, founder at Online Seller UK. And today we're slightly deviating from Amazon. So we're talking about Google Shopping, but it's all good. It's all good. So I'm joined by Lorna, who works for GS1 UK for many, many years. So let's dive in. So Lorna, welcome to our podcast.
Hello, Prabhat. Always nice to chat to you. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me again. Yeah, I have been at GS1 for, I think it's 8 years now. So, yeah,
um,
the years are ticking past quickly, actually.
it's a long time, long time. So I think for people who don't know, I think it's good to introduce GS1 and yourself, and we take it from there.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Well used to doing that now. Yes, GS1 is basically a standards organisation. We're best known for the number that goes into the barcode. So most people, well, everyone I think, probably has seen a barcode, but they don't realise that what goes into that number, and that there's actually a company behind that that gives you the number that goes into the barcode. So I work for the UK office, but there's 118 of us around the world, so pretty much every country has a GS1 office.
Excellent. So, talk me about Google Shopping and how can a seller get more visibility on it?
Yeah, sure. So basically, when people are selling products, they know that they get a barcode to scan it through the till, but the number is basically the important bit. The barcode is just actually how you beep it through the till and call that number up. But what you want is to be, when you're not selling and beeping it through a checkout, you need a way of identifying that product online. So when you use that number on any of the channels that you sell through, so that's your own website, so that could be Shopify, that kind of channel, or any of the marketplaces that you might sell through, and any retailers that you sell on their websites and or in their stores, you need to be giving them that number and making sure it's the same number for all of those channels, because that's the number that goes with the product. Basically, it's like a passport number for it, really.
Okay, excellent. So, having it, what difference does it make, or do we actually need the barcode or EN number to sell through Google Shopping?
Yeah, so Google's research, I think they started requiring it from about 2016, I want to say. But basically, they did some numbers. Obviously, Google are the kings of data. And what they came back with is that by using that number on your Google Shopping ad, so literally just having your GTIN within the GTIN field on the ad, gives you 40% more visibility, so 40% more impressions, and 20% more conversion, which is huge, huge numbers for you, basically including a number that you've already got for your Amazon selling, basically. So it's a no-brainer, and most of the shopping platforms and retailers and marketplaces already have a Google Shopping feed. So most of them are going to be doing that on your behalf.
Okay, excellent. So, I want to step back a little bit because I hear people getting confused about some of the terminology. So,
Sure.
you mentioned GTIN,
Yes. Yeah.
and you mentioned barcode,
Yeah.
and you mentioned EN number,
Yeah.
right? So, I understand they're the same thing, but I think, do you want to talk a little bit on
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
what they
Yeah. I'll
are and
explain that.
yeah,
Yeah. So when we say barcode number, we're
yeah.
basically talking about a GTIN, and a GTIN stands for Global Trade Item Number, and that is the kind of the newer word for EAN. So EAN is European Article Number, back when it was a European one and an American one. So the Americans might know a UPC, and basically, obviously, GS1 is global standards. We combined that, so it no longer became a US and a European thing. It's just a global trade item number. But I mean, the barcode's been around 50 years now, so old habits die hard, right? So EAN and UPC is still definitely prevalent in the market, but it all means the same thing, really.
Okay, okay, excellent. Thanks you for that. So let's go back to our Google Shopping feed and the visibility side of things. So I know in some manufacturers they bring the product in, they have got the GT number on the product for the distribution and so on, and they sell on marketplace. But there are also sellers who doesn't need a GT because they don't distribute that product. and they want to sell themselves and they sell on Amazon without a GTIN because of exemption and things like that. So how do we approach those situations in Google Shopping?
So yeah, so it is required for all new items. If you're selling somebody else's product, then they should be given that GTIN for you. If you are the brand or the manufacturer, then you need to be getting that number and put it on your product yourself. Obviously, there's some scenarios where you wouldn't have one. So usually, secondhand stuff is usually a bit trickier because it's you haven't got the item anymore. It could be really old, and a lot of those categories you find they're exempt from needing it anyway. And also things around handmade. So handmade categories, typically Etsy. Like I said, they don't mandate it, but they recommend using it for when you do have it because of the advantages you get from Google Shopping. But yeah, it's not for every single product in the world.
Okay, okay, excellent. So with in terms of going back to how we're looking at GTIN and the Google Shopping feed, there is a little bit of not controversy as such. It's the Amazon does the price matching. And this is a little bit controversial topic, but I'm not prepared for it. I'm talking it anyway. And so Amazon now compares the price between their platform and the Google Shopping. So I believe the way they do it is the GT number because that's the only primary number they can compare against. Now, if the website price drops, Amazon checks that price
Yeah.
and that take the buy box away. Right? So I'm just trying to formulate a question, but I'm not because it's going through
Yeah,
a statement sort of
I
thing.
know what you're
So,
trying to say.
yeah. So um so
I
in
get what
that
you're saying. So
yeah, so
yeah.
it's a little bit tricky because they take the buy box away and we can't change the price. So I am it's not the fact that in not many people say, but there is a way now people are using another GTIN for Google
Mm,
Shopping and
yeah.
another GTIN for the website. That is a situation now. This is not a question, but are you seeing this sort of trend at all with people you talk with?
Yeah, the thing is, right, people think it's a new issue. I mean, realistically, this has been going on in stores for ever since we've had stores, right? The fact that we've got things like online just means that you can do it and find out about it a lot quicker. And obviously, that's a pro and a con, depending on your viewpoint. It's a con for the seller because they don't want to see they want the best price for the product. I get that, but ultimately, it's a pro for the customer, and realistically, it's about getting the product sold. So as long as you've got a price that is going to make you profit, whatever price that might be, you don't drop below that, then you're selling your product. So yeah, it's a tricky one, but I making it to try and game it so that you're using different GTINs for different channels is just going to cause you headache. You're going to get unstuck somewhere, and obviously you're then removing the whole stats that I talked about earlier from Google Shopping, because the reason that they can do that is because they can see the instances of your product across the web, because it's the one identifier that pulls all of that data together, and
Mhm.
from that it allows them Google to be able to kind of trust in the data that is associated to the product, and therefore they're going to surface it more, which then gives you the 40% more visibility, 20% more conversion. Whereas if you've got your product here, there, and everywhere with lots of different numbers, they don't know what's going on. And so they're going to go, I don't really know which product is the right version of it. So do you know what? I'm not going to show it as high. So I think it seems like a good strategy, but I think long term, you're probably going to cut your nose off more than embracing it as a channel and just setting your competitive lowest price that you're happy with, to be honest. That's probably a controversial answer for some people. It's not what they're going to want to hear, but it's the truth, right? I deal with
Yeah.
we've got 60,000 members. A lot of them are small guys. 80% of them are joining us to trade on marketplaces. So I see this problem a lot. And I also see the outcome of when you try and do different things and cut corners or maybe use the cheaper option, and I end up having to help them unpick those troubles. So yeah, don't go down that slippery slope. It's probably my advice to that.
Yeah. So Okay, no, no, thanks for talking to me on that. So another thing, I talked with one retailer and they said the GS1 is very expensive. Okay, this is a slightly different topic, but GS1 is expensive. And at one time, and you had a pricing point of, having 1,000 numbers or something like that, but it has
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
changed. It has changed,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah. We obviously we're an old business, so changing things takes us a little bit longer than we'd like it to do. But yeah, we've had the minimum package again. It was driven by the fact that more the like online sellers weren't as prevalent, and therefore small startup businesses weren't as prevalent. So the smallest bracket that we had was 1,000 because that's what they needed. But times have changed, so we now have a starter 10 and starter 100. So if you've only got a couple of products, then you can get 10 numbers. You can get 100 numbers, 1,000, all the way up to millions. But people think that, oh yeah, I've only got one product now, but ultimately they also don't realize that for each flavor, color, size, smell, scent, that all needs a different number. And then also when you make any changes to that, so I don't know, if you realize that you want to change the box, you want to make it a bit smaller or reduce the packaging, that all needs new numbers. So you think, oh, I'm never going to use those numbers, especially things like apparel. You're going to go through those numbers a lot quicker than you realize.
Absolutely. But I like
Yeah.
the fact that you reduce the number, so entry level is not barrier anymore. So
No,
that's quite
definitely not. Definitely not.
that's quite
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And also, if you end up getting more, so I don't know, you get 10 from us and then you add another 10 on, or you add another 100, if you find that you've discontinued quite a lot of the products, you can discontinue the prefix range as well. So you don't have to have all of the numbers forever.
Hmm.
It's just what is currently in the market. You just say, I'm not using these products anymore. They're gone. Retire that prefix. That is retired. That is no longer part of your membership.
Oh, okay, that's excellent. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
that's good
Yeah.
message to go out as well. Okay, good. So thanks very much for talking to me. Is there any points that you think we haven't touched in terms of Google Shopping site?
I think that's the main point. Is just that wherever you sell it, make sure that you're using your GTINs in the field, because a lot of the time you can get free traffic from that marketplace because they're doing the Google shopping on your behalf, right? So making just by having that on there, you're getting free traffic. So why not utilize that? But I mean, I'm happy to talk through that with anybody if they've got some issues with it. And of course, we will be at Amherst with you guys. So we'll be there. So they can always come and speak to me there in person if they want to.
Excellent. Thanks very much for your time today, Lorna, and I'll speak to you soon. All the best for now.
Thank you. Bye.